Everybody want to win right now. Everybody want to shine without putting in the grind. But if you're thinking in terms of sprints, you already lost. A sprint burns you out. A sprint gets you a quick taste and then leaves you empty. But the marathon, that's what separates the ones who talk about success from the ones who build it brick by brick. Life ain't about rushing to the finish line. It's about creating something that lasts beyond you. Everybody wants to rise fast, but very few want to put in the kind of work that actually sustains success. The idea of the long game is not just a motivational slogan. It is a mindset that determines whether your achievements will last or whether they will fade as quickly as they came. When you choose to embrace the long game, you are making a decision to invest in something that will keep growing even when you are not in the spotlight. This isn't about chasing temporary highs or quick wins that vanish overnight. It's about planting seeds that will turn into trees. And those trees will bear fruit long after the first day of effort has passed. Too many people treat life like a race to a finish line they can see right in front of them. They want instant validation, instant success, and instant respect. But the truth is that anything worth having demands patience, discipline, and sacrifice. Think about a farmer. He does not sow seeds today expecting to eat tomorrow. He knows that first he must prepare the soil, then plant, then water, then wait. The rain might not come when he wants it, the sun might burn hotter than expected. But if he stays patient and consistent, eventually the harvest arrives. The same principle applies to every area of life, whether it's business, relationships, fitness, or personal growth. What you start today may not show results immediately, but if you stay consistent and keep tending to it, the results will eventually multiply. That's why people who commit to the long game never panic when others are sprinting ahead. They understand that the sprint may look impressive for a moment, but endurance always wins over speed. Choosing the long game means you stop expecting instant rewards and start focusing on foundations. You can't build a skyscraper on weak ground, and you can't build lasting success on shortcuts. When you focus only on speed, you cut corners, you ignore the basics. You get carried away with the applause of a fast start. But every shortcut has a cost, and eventually you end up paying more than what you tried to save. Playing the long game means taking the time to learn, to develop skills, to build character, and to lay bricks one after another until the structure is unshakable. It may not look flashy at first, and you may even be underestimated. But when the storms come, it is the ones who invested in their foundation that still stand tall. You have to train yourself to appreciate small progress instead of chasing instant gratification. Most people lose because they want all the results in the shortest possible time. When it doesn't happen, they quit. But those who embrace the long game understand that even the smallest steps count. Every page you read adds to your knowledge. Every workout builds your strength. Every dollar saved grows your financial security. It may look insignificant in the beginning, but success is nothing more than the accumulation of small, disciplined actions over time. The long game is a series of invisible victories that eventually become undeniable. Patience in the long game doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means staying consistent without demanding immediate proof of success. It means working today, trusting the process, and believing that your efforts are compounding even if you cannot see the full picture yet. Think about compound interest. If you invest money and expect it to double overnight, you will be disappointed. But if you keep adding to it and let time do its work, years later you will find your investment has grown into something far greater than what you started with. That's the essence of the long game. You trust time, consistency, and effort to multiply what you put in. When you look at people who build empires, you notice a common pattern. They didn't blow up overnight. They spent years in the shadows, working when nobody was watching, failing and adjusting, learning and improving. Their success looks sudden from the outside, but the truth is that it was a long time in the making. The world only saw the finish line, but they had been running the marathon long before the crowd noticed. That's why your mindset must shift from wanting recognition now to preparing yourself for impact later. When you chase the long game, recognition becomes a byproduct, not the goal. Another part of embracing the long game is developing resilience. Quick success often creates fragile confidence, but long-term success develops inner strength. When you work for years on something, you go through setbacks, losses, delays, and challenges. Every time you get back up, you become more resilient. Every time you push through, you become tougher. This resilience is what keeps you standing when others give up. You cannot build this kind of strength in a sprint because there is no time to experience the lessons that come from the journey. The marathon gives you the experiences that prepare you for lasting greatness. Once you internalize the long game, you start to make decisions differently. Instead of asking what can bring results fastest, you ask what can bring results that last. You stop wasting energy on short-term temptations and start protecting your long-term vision. You recognize that true wealth, true freedom, and true success are all the result of choices made with the future in mind, not just the present. Now think about building real value. Many people confuse value with popularity. Popularity can come quickly, but it disappears just as fast. Value is what sustains you when attention fades. Building real value means developing things that cannot be taken away from you. Skills are value, knowledge is value, integrity is value, ownership is value. When you focus on value, you stop worrying about how people see you in the moment, and you start thinking about how your work, your character, and your creations will stand the test of time. If all you chase is applause, you will be enslaved to people's opinions. The moment they stop clapping, your confidence collapses. But when you build value, you don't depend on validation. You know what you bring to the table even if no one notices right away. A singer who builds skill in private will always outlast the one who relies only on hype. A business owner who focuses on creating systems will always outlast the one who chases trends. The person who invests in learning and mastery will always outlast the one who looks for shortcuts. That's the power of value. Real value also creates independence. When you own your work, your skills, your brand, or your vision, nobody can control you. This is why people who hustle with intention focus on building ownership instead of just clout. You can be famous and broke, but you cannot be valuable and powerless. Value attracts opportunities. Value creates leverage. Value makes people come to you instead of you chasing them. Building value requires sacrifice. You might have to say no to fast money, no to easy praise, no to shallow recognition, because you're working on something deeper. You're building a reputation that speaks for itself. You're creating something that will keep paying you long after the moment has passed. A sprinter chases what looks good now, but a marathon runner invests in what will still be standing tomorrow. The most powerful part of building value is that it becomes bigger than you. When you create real value, you impact others. You give people something they can use, something they can learn from, something that improves their lives. That impact keeps spreading long after you move on. That is how legacies are built. Legacy is not about being remembered for existing. It is about being remembered for what you gave, for the value you left behind. So when you put the long game together with the commitment to build value, you start living with a different rhythm. You no longer feel the pressure to rush. You stop comparing your journey to the next person's sprint. You recognize that every step, every sacrifice, every lesson is building towards something greater. And because you are focused on value, your work has depth, it has meaning. It cannot be shaken by trends, by opinions, or by temporary setbacks. Mastering your energy is one of the most important parts of running the marathon of life, because without control over where your energy goes, you will constantly feel drained and unfulfilled. Energy is more valuable than time because time is fixed, but energy is what gives time its power. Two people can have the same 24 hours, but the one who knows how to direct energy with purpose will always achieve more than the one who wastes it on things that do not matter. The problem for most people is that they let the world decide where their energy goes. They respond to every distraction, every argument, every negative person, every meaningless activity, and then they wonder why they feel empty at the end of the day. Energy is like currency, and if you spend it without thought, you will always be broke in spirit. To master your energy, you first need clarity about what you are working toward. Without a vision, your energy has no direction, and when energy has no direction, it leaks everywhere. That is why so many people feel exhausted without being productive. They confuse being busy with being effective. But true mastery of energy comes when you align your actions with your goals. Every choice becomes a filter. If it does not serve your growth, your purpose, or your values, it is not worth your energy. The more you say no to distractions, the more powerful your yes becomes when it is applied to the right opportunities. Another part of mastering your energy is protecting your mental space. Your mind is the command center, and whatever you allow inside it determines how you feel, how you act, and ultimately how you live. If you constantly feed yourself negativity, drama, and chaos, your energy will always be low. If you surround yourself with people who drain you instead of uplifting you, your energy will always be scattered. That is why you must be intentional about your environment. Choose relationships, conversations, and information that feed your growth. Guard your mental space like it is sacred, because it is. Every thought is fuel, and the wrong kind of fuel can destroy even the best engine. Emotional control is another essential part of mastering your energy. Life will test you with disrespect, betrayal, and setbacks. If you react to every situation with anger, fear, or frustration, you are giving away your power. Every time you let someone provoke you, you hand over your energy to them. Mastery means knowing when to respond and when to stay silent, knowing when to fight and when to walk away. It means not letting temporary emotions destroy long-term progress. This does not mean you suppress your feelings, but it means you control how they guide your actions. Energy mastery is not about avoiding emotion. It is about using emotion wisely, channeling it toward building instead of breaking. Physical energy is just as important as mental and emotional energy. You cannot run a marathon if your body is weak and neglected. Discipline with sleep, nutrition, and exercise is not optional if you want to perform at your highest level. Too many people want to build empires while running on empty, but if your body collapses, everything else does too. Treat your health as the foundation of your hustle. Energy flows through the body, and a strong body supports a strong mind. Every workout, every healthy choice, every hour of rest is an investment into your ability to go further. Once you learn how to master your energy, you realize that it is not just about productivity, it is about freedom. You are no longer controlled by external chaos or internal impulses. You choose where your energy goes, and because of that, you gain momentum in the direction of your vision. Small actions compound because they are consistent. Discipline becomes natural because you are no longer scattering your strength. This is how people build extraordinary results over time. They know how to keep their energy aligned with their mission while everyone else wastes theirs on things that do not matter. Now, after mastering your energy, the next step is to stay consistent. Consistency is one of the most underrated forces in the world. It is not glamorous, it does not bring applause right away, but it is what separates those who talk about success from those who actually achieve it. Anyone can be motivated for a day, a week, or even a few months, but only those who stay committed for years truly see the harvest of their work. Consistency is the bridge between intention and results, between dreams and reality. Consistency is difficult because it requires discipline when motivation fades. Motivation is a spark, but consistency is the firewood that keeps the flame alive. There will be days you do not feel like working, training, studying, or building. There will be times when your effort seems invisible, when nobody notices, when the results do not show yet. That is when most people quit, but that is also when consistency proves its power. By continuing to show up even when you don't feel like it, you separate yourself from the crowd. Success rarely belongs to the most talented, it belongs to the most consistent. Think about water carving through stone. One drop does nothing, 100 drops still look insignificant, but thousands and millions of drops day after day, year after year carve valleys and canyons. That is the power of consistency. It takes what looks small and turns it into something monumental over time. The same principle applies to your life. Every workout, every page read, every sale made, every brick laid, every small step forward compounds into greatness if you keep repeating it. Consistency transforms effort into legacy. Staying consistent requires you to build habits instead of relying on emotion. If you wait to feel ready, you will never be consistent because feelings are temporary and unreliable. Habits remove emotion from the equation. When something becomes part of your routine, you do it automatically. You do not question it, you do not debate it, you just execute. That is why developing habits aligned with your vision is one of the most powerful things you can do. A person with strong habits is unstoppable because they no longer depend on fluctuating motivation. Consistency also requires patience. Results rarely show up as quickly as we want. In fact, the beginning often feels like silence. You put in work and nothing seems to move, but the work is compounding under the surface. Seeds grow roots before they break through the ground. The gym builds strength you cannot see before it shows in your appearance. Business builds trust behind the scenes before customers show up. The person who stays consistent during the silent phase is the one who eventually enjoys the loud rewards. One of the biggest enemies of consistency is comparison. When you look at someone else's progress and feel behind, you may want to quit or switch directions. But consistency is not about outpacing others, it is about outlasting your former self. Your only competition is the version of you from yesterday. If you are doing better today than you did before, you are winning. Stay on your lane, trust your path, and do not let someone else's sprint make you abandon your marathon. Consistency also builds credibility. People trust those who show up repeatedly, not those who appear once in a while. If you want to inspire others, lead others, or build a reputation, consistency is the foundation. Nobody respects a person who only talks about what they want but never shows up for it. But when you prove through consistent action that you are committed, you earn respect even from those who doubt you. What makes consistency truly powerful is that it turns ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. The gym beginner who lifts small weights every day eventually becomes strong. The writer who writes a page daily eventually has a book. The entrepreneur who works daily on the business eventually builds a company. The artist who practices every day eventually masters the craft. None of these outcomes happen overnight. They are the result of ordinary actions done consistently until they produce extraordinary results. So when you master your energy and then apply consistency, you become unstoppable. You no longer waste strength on meaningless battles, and you no longer break your momentum by quitting when it gets hard. Your energy is directed, your habits are aligned, your actions are repeated, and your growth becomes inevitable. That is the formula for turning vision into reality, not in a day, not in a week, but over the marathon of life. In every long journey towards success, you will face delays, setbacks, and moments where nothing seems to move. This is where many people lose themselves, because they mistake a pause for a failure. They assume that because things did not happen on their timeline, it means they will never happen. But the truth is that every delay is part of the process, and those who understand this are the ones who survive the marathon. When you run into obstacles, it is not the end, it is simply the universe testing your commitment. Do you really want what you say you want, or were you only chasing it because it looked easy? Learning to withstand delays is about developing patience with purpose. There will be days when your efforts feel invisible. You put in the work, you show up, you sacrifice, and yet there is no recognition, no applause, no immediate reward. But these silent seasons are not wasted. They are the foundation being built beneath the surface. Just like a seed grows roots before it breaks through the soil, your work is building strength you cannot see. If you quit during the delay, you never allow those roots to grow strong enough to support the success waiting for you. Delays also teach resilience. Every time you face a setback, you are given the chance to choose between frustration and growth. You can complain about how long things are taking, or you can use the delay to sharpen your skills, adjust your strategy, and strengthen your mindset. Many times the delay is not denial, it is preparation. Life knows you are not yet ready for the weight of what you are asking for. You may have the desire, but you do not yet have the capacity. The delay gives you the space to become the person who can actually handle the blessing when it arrives. Think about it like training for a fight. If you step into the ring too early, without building the necessary strength and endurance, you will lose. The delay is not meant to keep you from fighting. It is meant to prepare you so that when you do step into the ring, you dominate. Too many people rush into opportunities they are not ready for, and as a result, they collapse under the pressure. But those who respect the delay, those who use it as training time, come out sharper, stronger, and unstoppable when their moment arrives. The biggest danger during a delay is discouragement. When you feel stuck, you start doubting yourself. You start questioning your vision. You may even start comparing yourself to others who seem to be moving faster. This is when you must remind yourself that every journey is unique. Your timeline is not supposed to match anyone else's. Comparison will only drain your energy and make your delay feel heavier. Instead of looking outward, look inward. Ask yourself what lessons this delay is teaching you. Ask how you can grow, what skills you can refine, and what strength you can build in this waiting season. Another lesson delays teaches humility. When success takes longer than you expect, you learn patience, gratitude, and respect for the process. You stop taking things for granted because you know how hard they were to achieve. Quick wins often make people arrogant, but delayed success makes people grounded. It builds character that fame and money alone cannot give. And in the long run, this character becomes the anchor that keeps you steady when bigger challenges come. Once you learn to withstand delays, you realize that setbacks are not enemies, they are teachers. They shape you into someone tougher, wiser, and more prepared than you were before. And because of that, you stop fearing delays. Instead, you embrace them, knowing that every season of waiting is shaping you for the breakthrough ahead. Now, connected to this mindset is the power of building independence. A sprinter often relies on others to carry them, but a marathon runner creates their own lane. Independence is the ability to stand on your own feet, to move even when nobody else is clapping, and to create systems that outlast your presence. If you are constantly depending on other people to validate you, to support you, or to carry you, you will never be free. True success comes when you can stand independently and know that even if everyone else walks away, you still have the strength to keep moving. Independence begins with self-reliance. This does not mean you isolate yourself or reject help, but it means you are not controlled by whether or not help comes. You develop the mindset that says, even if nobody believes in me, I believe in myself. Even if nobody opens doors for me, I will build my own door. Even if nobody hands me a seat at the table, I will create my own table. This kind of independence is powerful because it removes excuses. You stop waiting for opportunities to arrive, and you start creating opportunities through your own vision and execution. Building independence also means taking ownership of your life. Too many people blame circumstances, other people, or luck for where they are. But as long as you place responsibility outside yourself, you give away your power. Independence means owning your decisions, your habits, your mistakes, and your growth. It means understanding that while you cannot control everything that happens, you can always control how you respond. Once you accept full responsibility, you gain full power. Another layer of independence is financial independence. If your survival depends on someone else's paycheck, you will always be limited. That does not mean you reject working for others, but it means you use that work as a stepping stone, not a life sentence. The goal is to build streams of income, skills, and assets that give you freedom. Financial independence is not about greed, it is about freedom of choice. When you are independent financially, you are not forced to compromise your values just to survive. You can choose the work that aligns with your vision instead of the work that simply pays your bills. Independence also requires emotional strength. Many people are controlled by the opinions of others. They cannot move forward because they are too worried about what people will say. But true independence means moving even when others criticize, doubt, or misunderstand you. It means staying aligned with your vision even when it is unpopular. If you live for the approval of others, you will die by their rejection. Independence is about freeing yourself from the need for constant validation. When you build independence, you also build resilience. You know that even if support disappears, you will not collapse. You know that even if the world doubts you, you will still rise. Independence creates unshakable confidence because your foundation is not built on fragile things like applause or handouts. It is built on your own work, your own growth, and your own discipline. The beauty of independence is that it does not make you selfish, it makes you stronger for others. When you are independent, you are not draining people around you by constantly needing them to carry you. Instead, you can actually give, support, and uplift others because you are already secure in yourself. Independence gives you the strength to lead, to inspire, and to create impact. When you put together the ability to withstand delays and the commitment to build independence, you become unstoppable. You are no longer broken by waiting seasons, and you are no longer dependent on anyone to keep moving. You understand that delays are simply preparation and that independence is the key to freedom. These two qualities turn you into someone who cannot be manipulated, cannot be rushed, and cannot be shaken. Growth is not just about reaching a destination, it is about who you become along the journey. Many people focus so heavily on the finish line that they forget the real treasure lies in the process itself. The marathon of life is designed to shape you, test you, and transform you. Every mile teaches you something about yourself that you would never learn if everything came instantly. When challenges arise, they are not simply obstacles in your way. They are opportunities to grow into the kind of person capable of handling greater blessings. You are not the same person at the beginning of the race as you are at the end. The version of you who starts is full of ambition and excitement, but the version of you who finishes has been refined by discipline, resilience, and wisdom. That transformation is the real reward. When you embrace growth through the process, you stop seeing struggles as punishments and start viewing them as lessons. Every setback forces you to adapt, every failure pushes you to think differently, every delay teaches you patience, and every success shows you the reward of persistence. Growth happens in the uncomfortable moments, in the seasons where quitting feels easier than continuing, and in the spaces where you have to dig deeper than you thought possible. If everything was smooth and easy, you would never develop the strength you need to sustain greatness. Comfort zones are safe, but they never produce growth. Pressure and challenge are what shape diamonds out of rough stones, and the same is true for your character. The process also teaches you humility. When you are grinding day after day without immediate recognition, you learn to value effort more than applause. You realize that the work itself matters more than who is watching. This humility keeps you grounded when the rewards eventually arrive, because you understand how much struggle went into earning them. It prevents arrogance because you know success was not an accident, it was the result of consistent discipline. Growth strips away ego and builds character, and character is what sustains you when everything else is tested. Growth through the process also means learning to reinvent yourself as you move forward. What worked at one stage may not work at the next. The strategies that got you started may not be enough to get you to the next level. This is where flexibility becomes crucial. You cannot hold on to old habits when you are trying to create new results. Growth forces you to let go of comfort, to unlearn what no longer serves you, and to embrace new skills, mindsets, and habits. Just as a runner must adjust their pace, breathing, and endurance during a marathon, you must continually adapt in order to keep progressing. One of the greatest gifts of growth is that it changes your perspective. You begin to see beyond the surface. What once felt like a setback, you now recognize as preparation. What once felt like rejection, you now understand as redirection. With every mile of the journey, your vision expands. You no longer chase temporary recognition, you chase impact. You no longer rush for instant wins, you invest in long-term rewards. Growth matures your thinking, and maturity is what keeps you focused when others are distracted. The growth that comes from the process also builds confidence. Real confidence is not built by empty affirmations or temporary success, it is built by surviving challenges you thought would break you. Every time you make it through a difficult season, you gain proof that you can handle more. That proof is unshakable because it comes from lived experience. You stop doubting yourself because you have already walked through storms and still kept moving. Confidence born from growth cannot be faked, and it cannot be taken away. It becomes part of who you are. As you continue to grow, you also become more valuable to others. Growth equips you with wisdom and strength that you can pass on to those who come after you. Your journey inspires others not because it was easy, but because it was hard and you made it through. People may admire quick success, but they respect resilience and consistency. When you grow through the process, you become a source of guidance, motivation, and proof for those who are still finding their way. You become living evidence that the marathon is worth running. All of this naturally leads to the final key, which is leaving a legacy. A sprint gives you a moment, but a marathon gives you a movement. The difference between temporary success and lasting impact is the difference between chasing personal gain and building something that outlives you. Legacy is about creating value that continues to inspire and uplift even when you are no longer here. It is about planting seeds that future generations will harvest. It is about becoming a foundation on which others can build. Leaving a legacy means shifting your mindset from short-term wins to long-term impact. Instead of asking how much you can get, you start asking how much you can give. You think about the mark you will leave, the lessons you will pass on, and the systems you will build that others can continue. Legacy is not just about wealth or fame. It is about influence, example, and contribution. You may not control whether the world remembers your name, but you can control whether your actions create ripples that outlast your lifetime. The most powerful legacies are built not through words but through actions. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget what you showed them through the way you lived. If you lived with integrity, that becomes your legacy. If you stayed disciplined, that becomes your legacy. If you created opportunities for others, that becomes your legacy. Legacy is not something you claim. It is something you leave behind through consistency, sacrifice, and purpose. Building a legacy also requires vision. You must see beyond your own life and think about the generations to come. Ask yourself what lessons you want your children, your community, or the world to learn from your example. Ask yourself what structures you can build that will continue to serve others long after you are gone. Every choice you make today contributes to that vision. Every sacrifice you make today builds the path for someone else tomorrow. Legacy is not an accident, it is the result of intentional living. Another part of leaving a legacy is empowering others. True legacy is not about being the only one who succeeds, it is about creating a pathway for others to succeed as well. When you mentor, guide, or uplift others, you are multiplying your impact. When you share knowledge and opportunities, you are ensuring that your work does not end with you. Legacy is about continuity. It is about creating something that carries forward even when you are no longer here to push it. Legacy also means standing for something greater than yourself. People remember those who represent principles, values, and causes. When you live by your convictions and refuse to compromise your integrity, you inspire others to do the same. A life built only for self will fade, but a life built on values will echo through time. When you live with purpose, you leave a blueprint for others to follow, and that blueprint becomes your eternal contribution. At the core, leaving a legacy is about immortality through impact. Bodies fade, names can be forgotten, but the difference you make in people's lives continues. The stories they tell, the lessons they apply, the inspiration they pass on all come from the way you chose to live. Legacy ensures that your life was not just about existing, but about contributing something meaningful to the world. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, you begin to realize that life is not about racing ahead in a sprint for quick results. It is about staying in the marathon with vision, discipline, and heart. Every part of the journey is molding you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. The delays teach you patience, the challenges sharpen your resilience, the consistency shapes your habits, the independence builds your freedom, and the growth transforms your character. All of it prepares you to create something that goes beyond yourself, something that lasts, something that becomes your legacy. The marathon is not just about winning for today, it is about building for tomorrow. It is about leaving behind a mark that proves you lived with purpose, you worked with intention, and you gave your best to the world. Thank you for watching, thank you for being part of this journey, and thank you for choosing to invest your time and energy into growth. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and remember, the marathon continues.